Hi, welcome to CodeKamikaze YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about concept called as MLOps, and we'll see what is MLOps, why MLOps is necessary for current machine learning models deployment, and we'll discuss before MLOps and after MLOps, and we'll see how the MLOps have simplified the production deployment. So let's say we'll discuss what have been going on before MLOps into this first, and later we'll jump into how MLOps has simplified the kind of deployment strategies and simplified deployment into the production. So let's see there is a data scientist, and there is operational team, and there is a production environment. There is an end user. Let's take this end user here. So here is end user. So what regularly data scientists do, he take the data from different resources, and he write the code or machine learning models. You can consider it based on the problem that currently he's going to resolve it and solution that he's going to find it. So what data scientists regularly do, he just take the data, he clean the data, and he featured the data we call as feature engineering, and after that he'll go with the different machine learning stages like hyperparameter tuning, and he's going to create the model like taking the algorithms, and he validate the model, he train the model, and finally deployed it. So this is the stages that regularly a data scientist do. But this data scientist has been writing the code in his local laptop, and he never communicated to the operational team. So in other hand, operational team, nothing but these operational team take the code from the data scientists or machine learning engineers, and they take the code and they deploy it into production environment, which is live for current to the end user. So this is the data scientist role, and this is the operational role, and this is production environment, which is deploying the machine learning model into this environment, and from this environment end user is going to request the data, and he get the response back from this environment only. So this is all we are discussing about before MLOps, and we'll jump into how the MLOps have simplified, what all issues is MLOps have simplified. Let's discuss about what the current problem all the machine learning models has been facing without MLOps. So we have seen data scientists had been writing this code into this Jupyter notebook, and he never communicated to the operational team, and operational team never communicated to data scientists or machine learning engineer how he has been taking the data, how he is doing the pre-processing, and how he is doing the feature engineering, and how he writing the code as per the best standards. So data scientist, what he's done, he have never communicated to the operational team, and operational team never communicated to data scientist. So data scientist, he keep writing the code to finding the best solutions and applying different algorithms and different models for finding the solution of problem that the organization or institution has been facing the issues. So data scientist saying that, hey, I have applied different algorithms, and one of the algorithms has been giving the best prediction. So I'm going to I would like to deploy the code into the production. So what data scientist done, he never communicated to the operational team. This is the first time he's communicating to the operational team just because of for deployment purpose. There is no communication between those two teams. So what regularly a machine learning engineer or data scientist do, they write the code into their Jupyter notebook, and as per their standards, they may or may not follow the standards, because they do have to go with the different experiments, because to getting the predictions, finding the best model or best algorithms take days and months. That's why they may or may not follow the best practices writing the code of productionizable or not. So but data scientist saying that, hey, he's going to communicating to the the operational team, saying that, hey, operational team, I have written the code, and this is the code, and I have written, and it is giving a better predictions, so you can go ahead and deploy it into the production. But operational team, what they do, they have seen the code, and the code is messed up. They are unable to understand the code, because data scientist has been callable different variables with different names, and he hadn't written the code into the kind of framework like Flask, and we have the Django, and we have the pyramid, for deploying the best practices into productions. So this operational team saying that, hey, data scientist or machine learning engineer, hey, you have given the code, and you're saying that it is giving the better predictions, but our team, it's unable to understand the code just because of it has not been following the best practices. So we are requesting you to write the code as per the best practices. Again, they're sending back the code into data scientist. So usually data scientists do occupy, maybe 90% of time to just writing the code and validating it, contacting to the leads for better validations and all. So they might not follow the best practice. Again, data scientists like occupied some other time, and he has written the code, and again they send back to the operational team, and this operational team has satisfied 50%, and they have not satisfied 50 another 50% just because of not following the best practices to get productionized. Because if you want to deploy a machine learning model into production, so you need to have to maintain very accurate best practices to get deployed into production. Otherwise, production, it will get messed up, and sometimes it may give a 500 error, and sometime it may give 400 error. It may unresponsive, and it may not give up better predictions in the production. So these type of issues has been can be arises. That's why this production operational team is more cautious about the best practices. So this conversation is keep going on, taking months of time to data scientists to be write the best practices and to get deployed in production and to available to the end user. So that's the reason in the current world 80% of machine learning models has not making into production. It is not going to deploy into production. It is still state into the POC or deployed into manually, or different kinds of issues. So that's why 80% of machine learning models has not made into production, just because of there is a clash always going between the data scientist and operational engineering. And hey, you have been telling one best practices, but I do follow one best practices. So this clash has been going on some way. Either way, nobody's going to win. It's going to just time consumption, time eating process to get deployed your machine learning model into the production. So that's why, this issue has been keep going on, and the industry start to bring some best practices to solve such an issue where the clash between the data scientist or machine learning engineer are into the operational team and get deployed machine learning model as quickly into the production, and by following the best practices. So that's why industry start to brought a best practice that's name is MLOps. So MLOps is not a new name. So MLOps is something that they brought from the DevOps, which means like applying the DevOps principles into the machine learning is called as MLOps, which means like you are assuming, right? So here we are going to use CI/CD pipelines to get simplified the productionization, and while following the MLOps, so we have been making a bridge gap between the operational team and data scientist or machine learning engineer. So let me draw a diagram where you can easily understand this. It may not be accuracy, it might be curve. Sorry for that. So this is a ML, which is machine learning, and this is ops, machine learning operations, which means like they have been bridge the gap between those two teams, which is more collaborative, saying that hey, before starting the machine learning model, so operational team saying that hey, operational team, we have best practices, you need to follow that to get deployed our machine learning model more quickly into the environment such as dev, testing environment, pre-prod environment, production environment. So operational team have given such a best practices to the machine learning engineer or machine learning team. So they do have to follow these best practices to get execute our machine learning model in production. So once the machine learning engineer have taken the best practice, so he's going to follow it and he's going to write the code, and it can be make understandable to the operational team, where they can easily take the machine learning model and they can run the machine learning model into the server by following the CI/CD best practices. Which means like if there is a standardization for machine learning life cycle, which means like taking the data from different resources like data lake or data warehouse or whatever it may be called, and from there pre-processing the data from the by taking the data from pre-processing the data and feature engineering, and we have the hyperparameter tuning, everything that have been productionized, everything they have been giving some way of best practices to be executable. Which means like here data scientist has been executing all the machine learning methods into his local laptop only. He has not made it into the server. So that's why MLOps brought such a principle. Hey, you have been running all your machine learning methods or whatever it may be called. Like we have 7 to 6 methods like pre-processing the data, feature engineering, and hyperparameter tuning, and model validation, model training, and we have the testing, the deployment, or whatever it may be called. So we have the different stages in machine learning. So whatever machine learning methods that you regularly a machine learning engineer do in his local laptop, so it has to be go through the server, which means like whatever pre-processing he has been doing is local, it has to run on a server, which means like the same code has to be run on the server, and the same code has to give a same accuracy on the server itself. So that is why, by simplifying such a things, like, there is a bridge from data scientist to the operation engineer, which means like once the data scientist has pushed the source code into any source code management tool such as Git or GitLab or Bitbucket, from there the same methods has to run on CI/CD, which is continuous integration and continuous deployment. And we have amazing another thing called as continuous training. So it has to pass all the stages. We can use the any CI/CD tool like Jenkins. You can use a GitLab, or you can use Azure DevOps, or you can use a SageMaker, which is provided by AWS, or you can use Azure ML to get executed all these stages on server or anywhere in the virtual machine. So once you present it, like, you will keep getting the feedbacks on the server level. Like, once you push the source code into the any source code management, from there, operation team get to know that this guy is going to deploy, this guy is going to get the values of accuracy, which is whatever accuracy it is going to come, maybe 85 or 75 or 65. So they do make a communication between those two teams. So this operation team will get to know, okay, this is a machine learning model is going to deploy into production, so we need to be careful about it. So they can see what all best practices it has been going on through, because they have a communication from operational team to the machine learning team at the earlier stage itself, before starting machine learning model. So this is how either they can write any kind of framework like a Flask, or they can make it as a pickle file, whatever. Like, they can Dockerize the entire source code and they can deploy into Kubernetes. Or we have a different MLOps tools such as MLflow and Qflow, and they can use those machine learning operational tools to get deployed. So this is where, like, you can make the bridge gap between those two teams, and you can deploy your machine learning model easily by following the continuous integration and continuous deployment and continuous training processes, and make available to the production very quickly. So that is why MLOps has simplified such a big problem, where two teams make a collaborative, and two teams make going with the best practices by writing the code, from writing coding to deploying to your machine learning model into production. So that is why I said, like, machine learning model is not a new, it came from the DevOps itself. So you're going to apply a DevOps practices into machine learning model and get deployed into production and make it available to the end user. So by following this MLOps principle, so we have seen, like, if you don't follow the machine learning model, so 80% of machine learning model never make to the production. But even if you follow the machine learning model, we can give accuracy, like, hey, 70%, or we can decrease to 80%. Even we can resolve 80% of machine learning model can make into production. So that's why machine learning has been gaining more popularity in the current market, and there are big giant companies has been adopting this machine learning operations principles into their machine learning life cycle, because, like, we have seen since 6 to 7 years data has been generated, and there are hundreds of TBs of lakhs of data has been generating or rising every day. So they would like to simplify such a problems by following the data, by reading the data, by applying the machine learning algorithms and models. So that's why they need to maintain some best practices. So that's the reason MLOps has been gaining such a big popularity into the current market. So that's all for this lecture about the MLOps, and I hope you have gotten a clear picture about what is MLOps and how the MLOps have simplified such a big problem where our current market has been facing. And we'll see what is the difference between DevOps and MLOps. In this section, we'll go with a schematic diagram, and we'll see how it has simplified the best practices. And later we'll see what all machine learning stages we have, and we'll discuss about thing. And we'll go and create a MLOps playlist from taking the data from different resources, or either API or CSV file, from there, and it get deployed into production, or whatever it may be environment you call it. So the bunch of videos are going to come in this playlist. So stay tuned to this YouTube channel, and like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and share to your friends who are willing to learn this MLOps. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.